Welcome back to another episode of Zarpado, a passion podcast. How's it going, everybody? As you know, I like to do this show whether I have an interview or not. And it's not really unfortunately or fortunately, but as a matter of fact, that just wasn't able to get a interview lined up for this week. And, you know, I feel like I have a pretty good reason. A lot of life changes. And I figured, hey, why not come to you all with a Hagen check-in? You know, that I like to do this with what I'm thinking about, what I've learned, what I'm currently doing, big changes, or when I forget to get not that I forgot, but when I don't have an interview lined up. So today we are coming from you live here in Santiago de Chile. Yeah, that's right. I live in Chile now. And I actually live here. I moved in with a friend of my girlfriend's, who's this amazing guy from California. Shout out to Lucas Quinn, who I'm actually going to have on the podcast in hopefully a couple weeks. Really interesting guy. I'll get to Lucas' shout out later. But, you know, today I just wanted to come on here and kind of talk about a couple of things. Not only has there been a lot of changes in my life, I live in Chile. I've been living in Argentina, back and forth to California, and now I live here in Chile. So let's talk about that. Why am I here in Chile? Well, it just so happened that, as you all know, I came to South America because I wanted to speak Spanish and I wanted to rock climb, and that was back in June. I had a plan to start down here, and really, you know, if speaking Spanish was my goal, then I figured there's no better way than to fully immerse myself. Well, I've talked about how that's been. You've seen everything that's brought in me. I mean, whether it's from the podcast to all the friends that I've made over the past almost year, speaking another language, the independence, the confidence, the mountains I've climbed figuratively and literally. And so that's kind of how I got into all of this. And I've spoken about that, so I won't spend too much time. But in the midst of all that, I actually happened to meet a girl. I don't want to make the episode all about her because she already has an episode. Antonia. But you know, I met her in Buenos Aires, and just kind of one of those things where you don't know, but you just get the feeling that you're doing the right thing, you're in the right place with the right people. And you know, why not just go for it? I'm here to see what Santiago's like. So far so good. It's a pretty impressive city. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, as well as, of course, as you know, rock climbing. Actually, that was another reason I wanted to come on here was about 2 weeks ago, because I've been here in Santiago for 1 week. That was another reason. You know, you move to a new city. Sure, I have contacts with people that I can do virtual interviews. I have actually a couple of people here in Santiago that I have lined up that I want to interview. But, you know, life just happens. And where was I going with that? Santiago. What the city's like. It's a crazy city. It is so different from Buenos Aires, or different from Los Angeles or San Diego, any city that I've ever been in. And at the same time, very similar to a lot of places that I've been in that, I mean, of the places that I've been in South America, whether it's been all throughout Argentina, in Uruguay, in Brazil, in down in the south in Chile. Santiago is a city that is most similar, I'd say, to kind of the vibe of the United States. Not dismissing anything from either, but saying in similarities. Like for some reason in Buenos Aires, you have a huge city, but it feels different. You feel like I never really felt like I was in the States. But now being here in Santiago, I at times feel like I'm in the States. And that's not a bad thing. At times it's actually a good thing. Things kind of function a little bit better. And and I mean, you have a lot of bike lanes, which you'd think isn't that much, but Argentina, you have little to no bike lanes. So, I mean, that's one thing. I'm actually getting ready to take the bike out probably tomorrow. First time. Wish me luck. Hopefully, if this episode posts by next Friday, or this Friday, that means I lived. But yeah, let's see. I completely got sidetracked. Sorry, it's been a very long day. A couple weeks ago, and this is where I went with it, as you remember, bringing it back around to rock climbing, because that's one of my new skills, being able to relate pretty much everything in my life to rock climbing. I spent an amazing week, and if you follow me on Instagram, I posted some pictures, talked a little bit about it, but I spent an amazing week in. I need to get myself a microphone stand. Spent an amazing week in the Andes Mountains, in Mendoza, in a couple of cities called Uspallata, and I've always had trouble pronouncing that. So if anyone wants to correct me, please feel free. Cachauta was the other one, and these places, man, were just absolutely incredible. I mean, Mendoza is it's a province in Argentina, and so that means that it's big. To people who like myself didn't know anything about provinces or districts that other countries have. Because not every country has states like we do. It's like a full state if we're relating it to anything. It's huge, and there's a lot of different towns and different things, and Mendoza happens to be right on the border of the Andes. And that was part of the reason that I came back after my first stint in Argentina, was because I found this rock climbing school, and um, they ended up pairing me with this guide, and his name was Daniel Lizarro. I didn't know this going into this. I actually knew almost nothing about what I was going to do. And then, about less than a week before, I'm given all this information, and it's all in Spanish, and I'm having to, gear my brain again to working around Spanish. And not just around Spanish, but then around vocabulary and experiences that I've never had, which makes it all new thing. I was ready. I was excited. It was a lot of work, but it was amazing. And we went out. I was told that we were going to this town, Uspallata, that was, 2 hours away by bus from Mendoza, where I rented an apartment and was not going to be there at all. And then I was told, okay, we're going out there for 2 days, and then we're going to go to this little town in between Mendoza and Uspallata, about an hour or so away from where I was currently staying, and camp. And I was like, okay, dude, yeah, I don't have anything but the pair of clothes I'm wearing and the one pair I packed, because I thought we were going to do 2 days and then go back, but no, we're out there for a week. And then camping. All I had was the stuff that I had. I mean, and I just kind of told myself, okay, let's see what it's like. And I spent the most amazing week with Daniel, my guide, who I then found out was one of the most famous rock climbers in South America. He had the world record for the most times ever climbed up the tallest mountain in South America, Aconcagua. I'm pretty sure, about 98% sure that that's a fact, the tallest mountain in South America. But I do know that my guide, my mentor for climbing, Daniel, had the world record for the most times. And so me and him went out there. He taught me how to use all my gear that I have. Placing safety, climbing, not just physical training, but philosophical, looking at why am I here? What is it that I get from this borderline crazy hobby that I have of rock climbing? I mean, it was just such an amazing thing, and to hear these stories and ask him, what he learned, and let alone do this in Spanish. Uh, it was such an amazing experience and the best climbing I've ever done in my life. And, just gave me this new joy and excitement to go out there and just keep climbing, and luckily learn how to do it safely, do this thing that I love safely. Because, the only way to really continue doing something you love is to find out how to take care of yourself while doing it, right? I mean, longevity, that's the goal. Um, as I was saying that, it was kind of clicking like, oh, hey, that could be applied to a lot of other things. So I hope you think about that. Um, but yeah, me and Daniel spent this amazing week out there, and just some of the things that we did and the people we met and the nature we saw was indescribable. I'd love if anybody, listens to this and wants me to tell them about things that I learned from him and from climbing, and funny stories of the camping and everything. Reach out to me. And I'm going to continue to say this throughout all the episodes, whether I have a guest or not. Reach out to me. This is what I love to do, and I love to share these things. And you never know what you could get out of it, because I know whenever I connect with someone about the things I love, I receive a lot. So that was one thing that I've been doing. Just keep in mind, this is a check-in. We're catching everybody up to what Hagen's doing, where I'm at, the zarpado cosa que estoy haciendo en mi vida, the crazy zarpado things that I'm doing right now. I just enrolled in another Spanish school because, living in Argentina for a year, I will, not to toot my own horn, but, I did a episode completely in Spanish. I've been a translator a few times, whether it's Portuguese or Spanish, which that's not important, people. But I learned that, yeah, I speak Spanish, but I learned Argentinian Spanish, Cartesiano. And when I'm speaking with someone from Argentina, I know the words that they're using when they're using them. I know how to use them myself. I know the accent, so I can, when I hear the words, it sounds familiar. Because my girlfriend's from Chile, I have friends from Ecuador, Peru, all these places, and they don't, have a problem speaking Spanish, at least visibly, when I'm with them. You would assume, okay, you learn Spanish, uh, you go to new places that speak Spanish, and yeah, you can understand them perfectly. Well, that's not the case when they're the type of Spanish they speak, and the words that they use, and the suffixes, and the order is completely different. I mean, yeah, man, like, sure, it's close, but Chile and Argentina are two different countries. So when I arrived here and I was meeting all these new people, friends of Tony, my roommate, people that I'm, speaking with at empanada shops and the supermarket and just people in everyday life, I noticed I was having a hard time understanding them. And, it's if you care about something, you tend to be a little bit harder on yourself. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But I realized, okay, cool. You can speak very good Argentinian Spanish. You can understand it very well. You're not in Argentina. You're in Chile. And if you're going to be living here for some time, who knows? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow. Hopefully still here because I have school and work. But, anything can happen. But I was like, okay, cool. Why don't you continue pushing yourself? And so today I had my first day of my language school. And, I'm in the intermediate class. I met a lot of beginners, great people, cute. I remember being there, beginner level. But I had my first class, and I'll tell you what, people, exercise is one of the most amazing things you can do for your body. And different forms give you different muscle groups, different attention to different parts of your body. We've learned throughout our life about breathing exercises, mental exercises. I will say that in my life, of the things that I've done, the most stimulating and exhausting things that I've ever done for my mind has been working with kids. I've never really worked with little kids. I don't know if I quite have the patience for that. But I worked with, ninth grade students through Soul Effects, and I used to be so drained throughout the day after we were done, and then the other would be speaking and learning. That's the important part. Speaking it, yeah, it's tiring, but when you're applying your mind that hard to learn another language, especially, I'm 24 in a couple weeks, so, I'm not that child brain where everything is a sponge, where it doesn't matter what you're learning because everything's new. It is the most exhausting thing ever. And I forgot how, first of all, good it feels, but also exhausting it feels. And so, I'm going 5 hours of school every day again, and then immediately into 4 to 5 hours of work. And it's tiring, man. But I'm up for it. I'm up to put the work in and to see what cool results I get. Because if anything, like I told you, I got a new skill relating everything in my life to rock climbing. And this school could be very much like the school I just took in rock climbing, where I learned so much about myself and about the world and about others. And now I get to do that through the boat or passage of language. And I'm excited for that. I hired my first, I don't like to say employee, my first partner person to help bring this dream of sharing this podcast with the world. I hired my first intern, partner, whatever you want to say, Kike, my best friend Jacob's little brother, one of the most talented kids I've ever met. Kike, I know if I'm actually going to check to make sure that you watch all the episodes through, because I hope you hear the shout out. I'm really appreciative for the things that you do. I'm hoping that everybody who watches this sees the work that Kike puts in editing my videos, to creating my TikTok. I always vowed that I'd never have a TikTok, but now I have a personal one and a business one. Still don't use it that much, but whatever. Where was I? Yeah, Kike does. He runs the TikTok. He edits the videos. He runs my YouTube channel. He's my partner on this, and I'm extremely grateful. So I hope that you guys see the work that he puts in this, and you notice I have the microphones. I mean, he's editing the sound. He's doing all this because I learned that when when there's something that you really feel your time could be put towards, where you could be using your God-given talents, your gifts, your skills for what you truly feel you could be doing, there's other parts of whatever thing it is that you're creating where not only are you going to need help, you're going to need to delegate. You're going to need to pay to play. And so I figured, okay, why not bring on someone who has skills that you don't possess and can help you ultimately make this dream become better looking, better functioning, and allow you to go do what you do best, which is go out and find the amazing people who you're going to have on the show. To me, that was a no-brainer and an investment. So I just want all you guys to know that this is where we're at with the podcast and where we're looking. It's all up from here. And lastly, where I wanted to take this kind of intro check-in, which will be the kind of main theme I'm going to introduce for this episode, was what I've been thinking about a lot lately. As you guys know, as I've spoken and shared with before, I'm just a normal guy, and with a pretty amazing podcast, whatever. But apart from that, I'm a normal guy, and I have stresses every day and doubts and worries just like anybody else. And I say these not to say, "Oh man, I'm so amazing. Can you believe that someone like me?" No, not at all. It's to say, "Hey, these are good. These stresses, these things are all triggers that we are alive. And if you're alive, that means you get to keep doing amazing things. Zarpado things." It's interesting saying that word, Spanish word, and then immediately followed by an English word. You know, it does weird things with the way that you put your mouth. It's interesting. But I wanted to share what I've been thinking about a lot lately. And tonight was an amazing night because I was talking with my roommate, Lucas. And, he really, really inspired me. And it was really interesting because I've had a couple of things, from a message that a new friend messaged me today, which I'm going to talk about, to a phone call I recently had with one of my best friends from growing up back in California, where the kind of theme was about inspiration and things that either I've done or things that I could do in, for instance, in my conversation with Lucas, I was sharing with him a lot of where my head's been at. And just some of the advice he gave me, man, was just incredible. Just absolutely incredible stuff that just not only made you think, but inspired me. And so I wrote something down where I wanted to kind of give you guys the template for where this episode is going to be. I want to talk about what I think it means to inspire someone and what it means to be inspired. So let's take that. What do I think it means to inspire someone? If you know me, if you've heard my speech, if you've heard my show, you know that a common theme that I like to talk about is, I want to change the world. I want to do something, be a part of something that leaves the world better than when I came into it or where it's at now. I've yet to find out what that is, but, I've lived a pretty amazing life so far with that as a goal. And so, if nothing else, if I'm able to live my life with that as the goal, then I'll live a pretty amazing life. Excuse me. So, what I think it means to inspire someone is to start small by affecting the people around you. Whether that means listening and truly taking the time to know the person that's sitting in front of you, even if it's across languages. There's ways, nonverbal communication, all these things we can talk about for hours. But apart from that, if you want to affect big change, you need to start with one. Because let's say if you want to change 1,000 lives, well, what's the story for the first life you changed, or the second, or the sixth? You're going to have to start. That's how numbers work, right? One after the other. And if you want to inspire someone, if you want to be an inspiration, you're going to have to start with the people around you. And, we've spoken about that before, about not telling people what to do, not being the one in charge, directing things. We've talked about living those things. That's a goal in my life, is I want to live what I believe so that people who see me can understand what I am about. So that's what I think it means to inspire someone, is to start with whatever small things you can with the people that are immediately around you. That's how you inspire someone, whether it's listening, offering advice, not telling, not sharing without, making sure that you can give things all day, but if people don't want the shit you're giving them, if I were to just take off all my dirty clothes and give them to you and say, hey, this is dirty, I don't want it. What good is that going to do? All I'm doing is giving my shit to you. But, the same way, if you listen to someone and you say, hey, can I share with you my thoughts on what, after hearing all that, what I think might help, or what I would say if you were to ask for my advice? It's contributing when contributing is needed, and listening when listening is. That's been something that's been on my mind a lot, and realizing the power that comes from that, and how much you can inspire someone with that. So, and apart from that, what it means to be inspired. That means, you can be proud, and people can tell you all the time, like, oh man, you inspire me. Oh man, that's so cool that you do this. That inspires me to go do this, or things like that. You can do that, but how are you going to know? And this is kind of what happened to me today, was realizing the importance of being open and excited when something or someone inspires you, and you recognizing that feeling inside and saying, hey, holy cow, this is what so-and-so felt when they told me that I inspired them. And I feel this good right now. Think of now trying to give that feeling to other people. That's where I was, and I think that's a good segue to talk about kind of what happened, and give this quick shout out to Lucas without talking about him too much, because I want to have his own episode where you guys get to meet him. But I was talking to him because he, as I mentioned, I wasn't talking into that. Lucas, he's fluent in English, German, Spanish, from Chile, like a lot of people I've met here, which is pretty impressive. They're very impressive, Chileans. But he was. I was just telling him we also both studied communication in college. And he had it. We were talking about the emphasis and the different things, what we use it for, what we learned. And I just kind of started sharing with him, one of my biggest dreams, and it's always been working for TED. Not just giving a TED Talk, because I will give a TED Talk. I know for a fact that's been not only a dream, but something that I could see myself doing. I see it. But also, I want to go one step further and I want to work for that. That would be my dream career, working for TED, you know, because what better way to just connect with the world than through an organization that brings people together to share ideas in the masses about everything you can think of. I could see myself running that organization and connecting some of the most amazing people in the world, using my skills for that. Um, so I was telling him about that and how, lately I've been a little worried is a strong word for the way I've been feeling, because I mean, life's been pretty amazing. I mean, I'm adventuring. I'm sharing all these new experiences with my friends, with Tony, with rock climbing, with the world, with everything. I mean, it's everything is new and everything is exciting. But, I thought a lot about where I left things in California, and I just graduated college and I'd started an amazing job, which, I'm blessed to be able to work from here. I had things going with Soul Effects. I had just given my speech, and you just think sometimes, and I thought about this over the past year too, living in Argentina, and especially now that I changed so drastically. I thought, okay, what if I would it have been? Of course, it would have been different, but would it have been better to stick on that grind trajectory and really pushed for, okay, TED in New York or Canada, or giving a TEDx, that's it's all around the world, different things like that. And that's what I've been thinking about a lot, and just kind of saying, like, man, if I buy a van, which has been, I mean, not that I'm going to do that, but if I live down in the south of Chile or Argentina, rock climbing for, I mean, as cool as that and amazing as that sounds, does that close me off to these other dreams that I had? And how do you mold your dreams without wanting them to change, you know? And I was talking to Lucas, and he just told me, he was like, dude, what the hell? Like, TED is a worldwide organization, right? And I was like, well, yeah, of course. That's why I want to work for him. He's like, well, if it's a worldwide organization, why would it matter where you're at in the world? And he told me, I know people here in Chile that have given TED Talks. And I remember when I lived in Argentina, I looked up things about TED, and one of the number one translators of TED Talks in the world was a guy living in Buenos Aires, who translated thousands and thousands of TED Talks into Spanish so that they could be made for the people living there in Argentina. Whether that means through the audio or transcribing them. And that just hit me, and I was like, holy cow, man, like, he's right. And then I asked him another question. I was like, well, the thing that worries me is because I am such, I am such an eloquent speaker, and that's what I love to do in English. And now I'm learning Spanish, and it's, it's tough. And even though I understand and speak a lot and can talk with people about, what they want to speak about, I will never, and I don't even want to go as far as saying never, because I'm so young, and I know who I am talent-wise when it comes to speaking. But, as of right now, I don't speak as confidently or as eloquently in Spanish as English, not by a long shot. And I told Lucas that, and I said, okay, well, would that matter? Like, let me ask you, just speaking hypothetically, do you see that mattering with me being involved in something like that, but not speaking as well in my native language, but still wanting to be a part of this amazing thing that is my dream, to be quite frank. And he said, well, you'd learn because you'd have to, because that's what you want to do. And I mean, just the way he said that, and I don't even remember if that's exactly how he said it, but that's what he said. I don't know if I remember that's how he said it. But it was just basically like, okay, well, if we're speaking hypothetically and you're worried about would that matter? I mean, why would it matter poorly? If you're around it, if you're there, you'll learn. And even if you don't learn, you'll be that much more valuable because you are able to speak both of these languages, and that could being able to express yourself so well in English might come to your advantage, to where that might even put you ahead in making a lot of change. And that's just what he was telling me, and I never thought of it that way. And was just blown away because I was like, okay, I could still just, look into seeing what it would take to do something like that and what skills I bring to the table. I mean, whether it's through this podcast or through the languages I speak or the experiences that I've lived, why not just think that everything that you are doing can be used to better yourself or your dream or those around you? Why not take a page out of your own book of wanting to inspire others and inspire your fucking self? I mean, that is literally what it was like. A light switch was turned on and I was shown that, hey, you're so fine in thinking, oh shit, am I doing the right thing? Why the hell am I down here? What am I doing? Like, am I doing the right thing? Sure, I'm happy, but what if? There's always going to be a what if, man. There always is. And the only time there's not is when you die. And we ain't dead yet. So there's going to be what ifs. But there's always two sides to saying, okay, well, what if this bad thing could happen? Yeah, well, what if you do something amazing and you use the experiences that you've lived to mold, and remember, there's a difference between mold and change, to mold this dream that you've had to incorporate these amazing life experiences and amazing people you've met to create your future. I mean, that was just one example of something that happened today. Another thing, another friend that I met recently this past weekend at a birthday party. His name is Lucas as well, Lucas with a K. He's from Chile. We were just speaking. I was telling him a lot. Somehow we got on the topic because, of course, as I said, I can make anything about rock climbing. Well, I can also turn any conversation into, hey, that reminds me, or that's like on my podcast. Oh, yeah, I have a podcast. Look, people, there's nothing wrong with talking about what you love, monitor, calibrate, but if you get a chance, take it, It's like when you meet Kevin Parker. Yeah. You say, hey, Kevin Parker, you inspired me. We're seeing you on Saturday. Shout out Tame Impala. We know that guy. My buddy Lucas, who really, we had a conversation at 3 a.m. out in front of a karaoke bar, sitting there, half mostly in Spanish, a little bit in English, just talking about my podcast. And I just, typed it in, boom, 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 on YouTube or on Spotify, and said, hey, give it a listen if you ever are interested. Well, I didn't think much of that. Quite frankly, I didn't remember that. It was a long night. Shout out the person who took care of me the next day. Cuando tuve resaca un montón. But I woke up to a message from Lucas, who I didn't even have his number saved. And he just said, like, hola, Javi, soy Lucas. We met the other night. And I just want to let you know I listened to your first episode of Zarpado. And he just shared with me some of his thoughts and just how much it impacted his day. And to start off your day knowing that you touched someone's life, I'll tell you, is the best way to start a day, you know? And it just kind of left me feeling like I was it put me in a great mood, ready to start my new school, ready to start the day, ready to encourage whoever I was speaking to in the morning, you know, just had me feeling good, man. It just had me feeling good. And so that's how I started the day off. And now in speaking to the other Lucas and thinking about what uh, Lucas too, it gets confusing, but just bear with me. The point is, they both inspired me, and it's cool. Life is good. But you know, it just really led me to see like, hey, this thing that we call inspiration can come in so many different forms. It can be given, it can be learned, it can be received, it can be taught, it can be shared. Inspiration, you can pick it up from anywhere, but it helps, and there's ways to cultivate it. I mean, you being open, wanting to be inspired, looking to be inspired, looking to inspire others. That is something we can do, people. That is something that we can do. And that is Zarpado. That is textbook definition Zarpado. And, I even phrased it as, this week's passion is inspiration. And, and from the people that I've learned from, and the people that have inspired me, like my rock climbing professor, Daniel. I mean, I remember we were camping, and we're in the yard of a friend that he had from many years past, who happened to live in this town. It's not the most glamorous when you're out in the beautiful nature mountains. You say like, oh man, why can't we go camp down by the stream? Well, there is such a thing as security. You don't want to get jumped in the middle of the night. You are still in South America. You are still out there with everything you own. And he taught me, he was like, you make these friends, you make these connections, and not only do things come full circle, but you have a house in all these different places in the world. And the place that we happened to stay was an old friend that he used to climb with back many years ago, who just said like, I live with all my kids and my kids' friends and their wives and my mom and just all these people. We don't have room in our house. It's tiny, but what we do have is a yard and a fence. And I would be honored for you to pitch your tent right in front of our house, so you at least know you're safe. And that's what we did. And we were, me and Daniel just stayed up talking, and I asked him, I was like, what's one of the number one things you learned from climbing? And and he said, that's such a good question. And he said, and I wish I remembered everything that he said 100%, but as it was in Spanish, it's harder to recall every single word. But I remember he said it's taught him so much how to deal with people and how to speak to people, how to maintain relationships with people. And he talks so much about respect and how in climbing you learn so much respect, whether it's for nature, whether it's for rock, for how much your body can endure, for the skill of others. Respect in every single way, shape, or form is what rock climbing taught him. And not only did it teach him how to have respect, how to feel respect, how to show respect, but to treat others with respect. And that was just such an amazing, cool thing to be able to hear. It's like, okay, I'm thinking, oh, what did it teach? What did it teach me? Oh, it taught me how to, climb up rooftops that are 90-degree. No, he didn't say anything like that. I mean, even though he told me stories of crazy shit he did like that, but about just how you can learn from something you love. And the only way you can learn from something that you love is by doing the thing that you love. How you can learn how to make the world a better place by doing what you love. And that, my friends, is passion. And that is what this show is all about. And if that doesn't inspire you, I would love for someone to reach out and tell me why or how. You know? So that was a really special thing, from what the two Lucases taught and gave to me today, to what I learned from Daniel in the mountains about this sport that I genuinely love so much, and showing me that you can achieve a common goal and achieve this dream that you have of making the world a better place by changing it, by affecting it through doing it, climbing rocks, being broke, taking care of others. I mean, that's pretty darn cool. Um, and I don't quite know exactly how long I've been on, but I wanna do about 10, 15 more minutes. Another good friend of mine, I think I briefly touched on this. Forgive me, long day. My brother Alex, who I've mentioned on the show many times, who I hope to have an interview someday with him. I was at my girl's house the other day, and he was on the big day that I was hungover the entire day. Had a great night, I will say that. And I just get a call from my buddy, and he calls me, and before he had long curly hair, facial hair, and he's got a buzz cut and not a hair on his face, and just this life to him. And the first thing he said is, "Hey, dude, I just I just left your mom's house." And I was like, "Oh, that's funny. Yeah, good one." Thinking he's doing. I'm like, "Hey, that's my mom." "Oh, wait, you're serious? You visited my mom?" And I just appreciated that so much. Hearing about, one of my best friends just popped in to just check on my mom. They took Penny for a walk, and he shared things about his life and asked her things about hers. And, it just made me feel so good to know that, I'm out here seeing the world and doing what I feel is right for myself. And I'm so lucky to have the support from my mom and my brother and my family and my friends. But to know that my loved ones are cared for while I'm not there. That, you know, that made me feel so special and so good. And then, Alex proceeded to tell me, Hagen, I wanted to tell you how much you inspired me. We hadn't spoken in a month since I was in California. And he told me, you know, down, he talks so much about, there's so many people that I wish I kept in touch with, from growing up and all that. And I'd be curious to know what they're doing. And, one thing I love to do is I love to share where my friends and people I know are at in life. I'm not much of a shit talker, so it's not like, oh, did you see them? They're going down. No, it's usually like, hey, did you hear about what they're doing? Like, isn't that crazy? Adam got married. That's crazy. But proud of you, brother. Sidetrack, sorry. But I love to share those amazing things, those momentos zarpados, with my loved ones, with my friends. And Alex said that, it had been a month since we spoke, And in that time, he realized that what I told him about, as he was saying, I wish I kept in touch with all these people. And I just said, dude, like, you still can, find out who it is, look who it is you want to. We have this amazing thing called social media that allows you to connect with so many people. Hit them up, call them, say, hey, I was thinking about you. How you doing? What are you up to? Catch me up. The same way we're doing this episode where I like to check in, catch you guys up with where I'm at. Do that with other people. Check in with people. Check in with family. See what people are up to. See how they're feeling. That's one thing I love about Latin America is every greeting. It doesn't matter if you're walking past someone, if you're stopping and speaking, you're genuinely trying to have a conversation. Oh, so very unprofessional. We're gonna have to wrap this up soon. It's always ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo andas? ¿Cómo te va? How are you? Basically, is what it is. That's not something we do back home. It's not. It's always like, hey, what's up? Or how's it going? But how are you? And then being open to finding out how someone is. That's a really special thing that I love so much about the culture here. So, I mean, back to Alex and what he told me. He just said, Hagen, like, you inspired me so much, and thank you. And I thought that I didn't, I didn't think much of it. I love to speak life, and I love to speak with my friends and my loved ones. And me and Alex always had really amazing, deep conversations. And that must have been something that I had told him or given, and I didn't even realize. But hey, that's a beautiful thing. So, I mean, all in all, the word inspiration really came into my head today. And, I like to finish every episode for what advice that can be given based off of everything we've spoken about. And as someone who's always had a life goal to change the world, I feel that I'm being given these lessons and these words and experiences that I'm going through right now that all are going to lead me to truly change the world. And if that's huge, that's huge. If that's small, if that's just in the small community of people that I am going to meet if I live in a little surf beach town in Chile, rock climbing on this side of the country, and then driving an hour to this side of the country to surf. Who knows, man? Who knows? But if those are some lives that I can change, I will have changed the world. So it's not as much as to worry about what you're currently doing and asking yourself, is this the right thing? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Then rather just being and knowing that, hey, how can I mold what it is that I want to do to fit where I'm at and what I'm capable of doing? And knowing that sometimes you are where you are for a reason. And it's up to you to find out if that is the right place to be, or if you need to go after and be where or be with who you're supposed to be with. Do what you're supposed to do. And that's all stuff that only you can answer. So if I can leave you guys with one thing, that's a near impossible question to answer. I want to talk about going out into life, and I'm going to try to do this tomorrow, and being open to finding something or someone or doing something that inspires you. Be yourself open to being inspired or feeling inspiration or learning something that inspires you to do something else. Because if you're able to do that, that's going to bring you to new and better and higher heights, which will then inspire others. And don't you see, it's a chain. You do something, you are inspired by something, that causes you to go do something. Then, when you do something, that inspires someone else. And then they do something that inspires someone else or inspires you. Like in the case of Alex, he told me about how much I inspired him, which inspired me. I sound like a crazy person, but that's just because this is huge, people. So just do that chain, opening yourself to inspiration, giving yourself opportunities to inspire others, being cognizant of how you inspire others, and then doing it all over again. Holy shit, man. Can you imagine what the world would be like? Man, life is good, my friends. Life is good. So I am going to get myself ready to kick ass in my Spanish school and see how I can inspire other people that I meet there and how I can look for opportunities to be inspired by others. I'm going to keep climbing. I'm going to enjoy my new life here in Chile with my new friends, my new girl, with just all the amazing things that are being put in my life. And keep making episodes. Keep making it better. If anybody has anything that they feel I could do to help them, reach out to me. And if there's anything you feel that you could do that would help me, help me. I would appreciate it, and of course the favor will always be returned. But, I shout out who I wanted to shout out today. I mean, there's a million other people, family, friends, my mom, my brother, who I'm so proud of the things that they're doing right now. Shout out to Nathan on tour right now. Shout out to Mom, getting ready to make amazing, beautiful life changes in her life that I can't be more excited to see how they turn out. But, keep inspiring, keep being inspired, keep searching for momentos zarpados, and just enjoy. Be where you are. So for now, that's what we got here. Hope you enjoyed the Hagen check-in. And remember, keep living la vida zarpada.